going to go right into our panel called Waste Not. So please welcome Kate Wilson, Marketing Director of Case. Fernando Nilo, founder and CEO of Recyclopolis, a foundation from Santiago, Chile. Henry Pino, founder EcoPod and EMA corporate board member. Shannon Bart, EMA board member and sustainability director of NBC Universal. And Mark Yamauchi, lead AP sustainability strategy manager at Toyota Motor North America. Thank you. That's all cozy on the camera. Yeah. Well, look, just to start it off, you could all, in the world of products, sell products, focus on a profit. Why is this a topic that you want to, sustainability, a topic that you're focused on integrating? Does it drive profit, or is it for some other reason? Anyone can start with that.
Well, let me start. It is a business imperative, right, about not only environmental sustainability, but business sustainability for Toyota. And as Doug mentioned earlier, we have our 2050 Environmental Challenge 2050 that's set our vision globally. So the top of mind for us.
How about some other folks who make products? Yes, please.
Yeah, so basically I'm Henry Pino from EcoPod, patented inventor of the system. And it's a refill system that we have out here as a sample, which Echols was nice enough to pair up with us to do a presentation along with us. And primarily, we manufacture our own products, but we want our concept to be embraced by other companies. So even though the system is patented, we're providing it to Unilever at no cost. We're providing it to all the major manufacturers of products, so that they can refill their products too.
So are you giving away the patents?
No, we're licensing the patents at no charge.
Okay.
And the whatever royalties we can create through them, all we're requesting is that they donate it back into environmental issues. Okay, so we're not making any money off of that.
So how do you fund it then, if you're not making money?
How do I fund it? Well, they're making money.
Okay.
Okay. We're providing the machines at cost to them. We're the manufacturers of it. Where I make money is in my own projects. I'm really a real estate developer.
Yeah.
And I develop high-rise buildings, condominiums, and apartments. And so what we do is when the tenant first moves in, we give them starter kits free of charge. When the product runs out, the systems are in the building 24/7. It costs a lot less because you're eliminating complete distribution. The convenience is always there. The building is generating some income for itself because they get some of the sales of the systems, and they're spending less money on trash haul out.
Fantastic.
So that's the circular part of the economy portion.
Fantastic. And how about in Case?
Yeah, so we have an alternative to plastic that's basically compostable. It's made from plants, farmed in Canada, so we're just north of you guys here. But for us, it's less about integrating into an industry like a sustainable alternative after. We only are a sustainable industry, so we have focused ourselves in this industry that is compostable, environmental, and the community behind it has supported us. We started as an environmental industry. So for me and for our company, it's less about how we make those choices every day, and this is the only industry that we know that kind of exists. And a lot of companies that we consult with, they come to us with that question of how do I make that one step towards that? And they're afraid that the customer base won't be there if they change their products so much. But our answer always is the customer base is that industry. It's not so we're a cell phone product, a tech company, and the industry is there in the environmental sector without it coming from a tech part.
Do you feel like it's because you guys emerged into that, you were born into that DNA? Let's say you were not. Let's say you were traditional, manufacturer. Is it easy to make the jump over and be trusted in that space?
So yes and no. So the hardest part is swallowing your ego, because the customer base that exists in this industry right now will tell you what you're doing wrong. And that's the easiest way to figure out how to excel in the environmental industry, is just to listen to your consumers, the community that exists around it. As long as you're okay with making mistakes and being told on a public platform every day what that mistake is, the community will correct you. They're experts in it. They're educated. They know what they want. You just have to be willing to listen and apologize when you made that mistake or that manufacturing issue, and the fact that you're going to solve it and not do it again.
Yeah, but they'll be cool afterward, right?
Yeah, they'll be cool. Just don't pretend, like don't greenwash it. The worst thing you can do right now is greenwash this industry and tell them that like you do all these amazing things and you get the cookies for it from earlier today. But just admit when like we are very humble in the way that we are learning from our community and from the science and the experts that we have behind it. But just admit your faults as they come.
Yeah. Please.
Tom, thank you to be here. First of all, I already flew 6,000 miles to be here and to join with everyone. So thanks for that, for EMA invitation. I'm social entrepreneur, as you know, and I started working with 25 years ago in the first e-waste recycling. You know e-waste, right? Raise your hand who has a cell phone, a computer, or any technology like you. So I started seeing this opportunity 25 years ago. But the thing is, I mix with social justice because I'm recycling technology, fax, scanner, cell phone, whatever it is, OEMs, you know, electric equipment, electronic. But my labor force are women who was in jail. Let's say Patricia, a woman who was 20 years in jail, she got a freedom and nobody offered a job. So what's happened with her? So I'm recycling both technology and women given a second chance in their life. I strongly believe that recycling should be mixed with social justice. This is why I'm social entrepreneur of the World Economic Forum.
I have a question for you on e-waste. Do you feel like with, for example, the amount of gold going down in circuit boards, and the accessing it becoming more progressively difficult, comparing, a computer made in the 1980s to one made today, how are the economics of e-waste? Are they becoming more challenging? Are they maintaining? Because you have to, just like anyone on the panel here, have to pay the bill in the end. How is that for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, the e-waste is the new trash of the century.
Yes.
The e-waste growing like this. It's more cheaper, more affordable, and the market sell you needs. iPhone, they create iPhone 1, iPhone 2nd, 3rd, and they create need for you. You have to buy the next one because they program the end of life. And that's not fair, because they sell you every year different models. So the volume, it's going like this, like a joystick. It's increasing enormously. So there is no problem. But the thing is, why we recycle? You know why? Because it's a market failure. I'm a recycler 20 years ago, but this is not the solution. Let me give you advice. The solution is eco-design, eco-production, and eco-design, because we recycle because it's a market failure. We solve part of the problem, but this is not the final solution.
Yeah.
If you create a pen, ecological, may I see your iPhone? Thank you. She created an amazing product because this is, at the end of life, as you mentioned.
I'll help you.
We are partners now, you see. So
we travel together now.
We travel together. So if we put this on...
In the compost.
In the compost, it will disappear eco-friendly, right?
Yes.
This is eco-design.
Yeah. Will it disappear in your home compost?
So it will in your backyard home compost. It won't decompose when it's like on your phone or however the application is being used. It has to be in that kind of perfect compostable environment.
But it's a home compostable, not industrial.
Oh yeah, I've gotten rid of plenty of mine because I like to switch mine out. So I just put them in my backyard. I've got a really good compost up in Canada with worms and everything. So it goes a little bit quicker, like in 2 weeks mine are gone. Yeah. But if you're living in like more of an urban, a city center, it'll take maybe like a month or so. But
right on.
You see, this is the challenge for original equipment manufacturer. Why the market they have to do this product of the computer like this. So we have, all the consumer here, we both, when we buy one product, we have to ask for the market for eco-design product.
Yeah, and I think bigger companies and technology companies are coming around to it. We're partnered with Apple and big organizations that want to make that change, but the only reason that they want to is because of the consumers that are getting behind it. So not only like all the youth that are in this room, like all of us who we vote every day with our dollar, I think that's the most important thing.
I just want to really reinforce that because I think many times I've seen in talking to individuals, and I don't know if you guys have seen this in your lives, that many times we feel very small. We feel like we can't act, and then it's like, oh, the big companies are the ones creating the issue, you know? Yet we're voting for that multiple times a day with cash. Forget a piece of paper and a pen every 4 years, you know, but for multiple times a day with cash on the future we want. And I just would encourage you to think about it this way, because, you know, the problem with environment is that it's ridiculously complicated. You know, it's we heard earlier today about palm oil. You know, how many people walking the streets here in Beverly Hills can connect an orangutan to your shampoo bottle, and why there's a major connection there? It'd be very, very difficult, and that's one sector, let alone automotive or mobility or all these other key sectors. Is, you know, one of the favorite things I love to do when I go travel, it's like an anthropological thing, is to go to a supermarket and see what's on the shelf and how much of what is on the shelf is there, because that is the desire of that region of the world. Because when you walk into a store, their goal is not to sell you what you don't want to sell. Their goal is to tell you what you want, and maybe if they're really smart about it, what you don't yet know you want, but want when you see it. And so when you shop, think about it this way. Whatever you take, whether it was free, whether you paid for it, whatever you acquire, 2 more will appear tomorrow. 1 to replace the one you took, and 1 to signify the trend. And 1 less of everything else you didn't take will appear, because there's nothing to replace, but there's 1 lost to signify the trend. And in fact, that's exactly what happens, right?
Yeah, what I wanted to add is on the motive side, and unfortunately, at least what I've been able to discover is that the economical part of sustainability work hand in hand. The more, how can I say, more accessible and the cheaper the product is, the easier it is for people to implement the sustainability part. So that's why EcoPod has basically been put, and we've cut out the retailer, and we're putting them in buildings, because we're stopping it at the source, and we don't have any distribution whatsoever. So folks are spending 30 to 40% less in purchasing these products. And the single-use part of it is just enormous, as we all know. I mean, Loop Industries obviously is focused on that. But at the end of the day, one thing that we offer is a complete circular system on the sustainability side and on the economic side.
Yeah.
And you know, by providing this technology to the Procter & Gamble's and all these big companies at no cost, and again, we generate our costs on our products that we generate, but nonetheless, it's a social responsibility that we all have, along with obviously the motive of the inexpensive of the product.
So we talked a lot about products, but how do you do this in a studio setting? I mean, there you're not physically doing things where you can sort of, it's a little bit more clear, right? Mm-hmm. How do you bring this to bear in a production?
Well, so I work at NBC Universal, which is a large media company, and some of the work I do touches our film and TV productions both on our studio at Universal Studios and anywhere in the world. And so when addressing waste in kind of that mobile TV film setting, I think you first and foremost look and see, well, what kind of waste can you not create from the beginning? Where is your source reduction? And it's everything from, I mean, the things that I think most people relate to are containers or coffee cups, things of that nature. We also look at reusing set materials from the large wood sets to the types of costume and props and things of that nature. So from a studio perspective, looking at setting up that infrastructure, do you have water filtration units in every single office so that people don't have to buy bottled water when they first move into the office? Do you have effective and clearly communicated recycling and composting program that is just there and set up for your tenants? But I think one of the biggest things that are one of the most fun parts of my job and most important is the fact that we're not tackling it from just NBC Universal's perspective. We're collaborating with our peers, our fellow major studios, and a lot of the new content producers, the streaming services. We all come to the table because we use the same crews, the same vendors, the same filmmakers. And so as we're figuring out what are the most important sustainable best practices to integrate into our studios and onto our productions, we're doing that as an industry so that culture shift happens faster. Because a lot of this around waste and what you buy as a consumer really is a culture shift and a culture of convenience.
Yeah.
So if we're going to shift the culture, at least from a TV and film perspective, we're working to do it together so that it happens faster. And I think that sounds like what you're doing too,
Correct, yes.
with sharing the patent, is like, how do we shift the entire economic system towards less waste?
Social
Have
responsibility.
you had a situation where, because a lot of times sustainability departments act through influence, you don't necessarily have, in traditional sustainability departments, big budgets, it's usually influencing where the budgets rest and so on. Have you had situations where you can come in and force maybe something that in its original deployment is unpopular, but it's doing the right thing? Or do you have to really work in the realm where it's what things, the actions or what everyone can sort of align on and be like, yeah, I get that, let's do that. Like, have you been able to handle the ones that are, everyone wants their bottled water and you go, no, we're going to have, a water fountain and this is how it's going to be and we don't really care?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it depends on the managers and the decision makers on the ground. So there have been instances, and from a sustainability perspective, my job is to kind of create the environment to make it easier to reduce less waste.
Yeah.
And so we say, okay, no bottled water is allowed in the offices, and we're making sure there's places to refill your reusable water bottles on set. Saying that, there's a lot of producers, or maybe it's a cast member or someone who's influential on the production that says, this is ridiculous, we don't need bottled water on set. And usually there's some grumblings the first week, maybe, but then people get used to it, and it's not a big deal.
Absolutely. So just shifting over to the automotive industry, what are the areas? I mean, obviously, in manufacturing, that's sort of an easy place to look at, where where we can see waste in the manufacturing facility and also maybe in the product. But as you shift to electrification and this future of mobility, where do you see the big opportunities to take waste out of the system overall?
Yeah, it's a good question. As you know, we are manic about reducing waste, eliminating waste.
Yeah.
We call it MUDA, because as we all know, waste is an indicator of inefficiency. Try to be as efficient as we can. That said, the most valuable waste is what you don't produce in the first place, right? As we shift our technology, a whole new, and this is talked about earlier today, new materials, new technologies bring new challenges, right? So one of the things that we are working hard on is what to do with all of our batteries, right? Fortunately, we've sold more hybrids than anyone else in the world, but there's more Prius and Camry hybrid batteries out there, and we are actually working on ways to repurpose those or reuse those. You may have heard a program we've had at the Yellowstone National Park. We've repurposed 250 Camry hybrid batteries and using it for energy storage at an off-grid facility called Lamar Buffalo Ranch there. So stationary applications for mobile batteries, probably something that holds a lot of promise.
So I have one of your hybrid vehicles. When one day it hits its end of life, how easy and motivated will I be to get you the batteries? Is there a system there, or what's the method versus just saying, here, junkyard, take the car and be done?
So the great news is that still has value. And by building the economics and the economic model for the reuse, it will take care of itself. And that's what's really great about the automotive industry relative to recycling, the robust recycling industry that we have here, simply because of the value of all the materials.
Right, and you guys can also be a big use of a lot of the materials, like to inbound a lot of these various waste streams that folks have.
Right, we're always looking for how we can get into more of the circular economy, right, and to looking for outlets for all the waste that we haven't been able to avoid, right? So, yeah.
So we've talked a lot about waste, because there's a lot of sort of physicality here. Do you know, I think waste has always been an issue, right? I don't think anyone ever has said over the past decades that waste is a good thing. But have you noticed a change in that perception over the past few years? Or has it been, for you the same as it's been 10 years ago or 20 years ago in the way the public is treating it and what's coming as a result of that?
So I think waste is now being looked at as a resource as well, right? So, I mean, we are, as you know, we are looking towards the future of automotive industry, which includes a big piece of that, the hydrogen economy. And there are ways and technologies that we're looking at to extract hydrogen from waste products. So it's very, very exciting.
Yeah.
And how's that affected it on for you guys?
I'd like to add that in 100 years, the population has grown sixfold to 7.5 billion people. And it's just a numbers thing. And the more people there is, the more trash there's going to be. And underdeveloped countries, just don't have the abilities that we have here in this country. And I see a shift starting to happen. And we all know what Asia's starting to shoot back their plastic. So it's definitely a big issue. I think reuse and refill is the way to go. And that's basically what I see in order to address it.
I think there's also a really important conversation happening around what is the best value of reusing or recycling that waste. Food, for example, you have great food. Yes, sure, you could compost it, but it's way better to give that extra food to people who need to eat it and donate the food. Same with materials. Sure, we can recycle sets, but isn't it better to have another production use them so that you're always finding that best use of waste? And I think it's not a new conversation at all, but I think it's becoming a louder conversation.
Do you find that, go ahead.
Tom, excuse me. I came first time for Beverly Hills. I'm so happy with that. But I'm living a little worried about that.
Yeah.
I will, my foundation, Riscapoli Foundation, has an agreement with Nat Geo. And I see here some teenagers. Can you raise the hand, the teenagers? I see a lot of them here because when I was like you, that age, a little time ago, I can understand how many plastic bags I receive here in Beverly Hills, in all the area. Yeah. The new generation, you have to make the change. We have a campaign, say, stop talking, start acting. You are the new generation. Why in Beverly Hills, in Los Angeles, we receive plastic bag? In my country, 2 years ago, my foundation made a campaign to push the authorities. It's forbidden plastic bags in all the ocean coast.
Amazing.
It's forbidden. And then we go fast, we go more, we go forward, say, why you don't do this in all the country? And now all the country in Chile is forbidden plastic bags. Yeah. So, I would like to applaud you guys, the new generation, next year when I'm coming, what you have done. Stop talking, start acting.
Yeah, right on.
Yes.
The crisis is so big.
Yeah.
So we need to go further. We need to stop talking. Let's go acting. This is the message that I give you, the new generation. So
how far do you think you can build that? Because we've seen amazing examples like Chile, Ireland, many places, cities here as well, doing plastic bag bans. It's phenomenal, and the more the better. We've seen it with the plastic straw. But as one of the students said here in the morning, plastic straws make up just a tiny little fraction. It's sort of like saying we have to stop eating meat, which we, by the way, all should do, and we're just going to outlaw, right? Yeah. Number one environmental change you can make, by the way, is stopping to eat meat. But that, the plastic straw ban is sort of like saying, well, we have a meat crisis and let's just not eat this cut of pork on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. and everything else is somehow okay. So how do we take these amazing legislative steps, because they're really good, and really, push them to the next level? Because I think we need both. We need to have the carrot, which is, it's the future, it's the electrified mobility, it's all these, it's reuse systems, it's, compostable cases, it's, sets that rotate, You may have seen that door on another TV show, right, sort of thing, which is amazing. But you also have to have the back come along with it, where you also have to put up some walls and say no more of that sort of thing. Is there a way we can take this momentum? I would just hate to wake up. I sort of felt, from my end, that like the plastic bag ban in this region came, it got big, it sort of went down, then we stopped caring, then the plastic straw came, got big, now it's sort of come down again, and we take a break. We can't do it one little object at a time, because for every object we ban, 100 get invented in the same period of time.
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
And it's a simple issue. We shouldn't allow corporations to hire lobbyists to go after the environment, because the bottom line is the corporations have all the money in the world. In Florida, for example, where I live, retail association was paying lobbyists to, how can I say, impede cities from banning plastics themselves.
Right.
And if not, they were going to get hit with a $25,000 fine. So you have corporations paying lobbyists to lobby, the politicians to do these steps. And so that's the first thing. I don't know if in Chile you have lobbyists.
Of course, all over the world, but I'm not agree with you, Henry. Sorry, because the politician has, on the private sector or multinational have lobbyists.
Okay.
But you know what? We have a dream. We have a green dream which is more powerful than any lobbyist. We change in Chile the law. We create the e-waste recycling day. Now we have the biggest park, marine protected areas. In Chile, we are the third in the world, and we will be the first one in the world in the next, because Chile is making the COP25, or you are invited. And so we are protecting the ocean. So forget about politicians, because we need to act. We need to put them and to invite them to dream. I mean, always will be barriers in the world.
Right.
But that is the social entrepreneurship, the green movement. We have to fight with this. I mean, sorry for that.
And I think you have to leverage that entrepreneurial spirit. It was touched upon with environmental justice earlier this morning, and with America Cities Green New Deal. In the city's New Deal, they have a goal to have no single-use plastics in LA by 2028. And so how are we going to get there? Yes, that's going to be a lot of bans of products, but you also need to make sure that you're engaging all of the communities, so that maybe there's parts of the community that uses a cheaper product, a styrofoam product, and you need to make sure that they're all involved in the conversation and the culture shift, so that using all fiber-based compostable materials is not only something a richer restaurant can do, but it's available and affordable to all food service industries, no matter who they're serving. And so anytime we're talking about regulations or any of that, it is really important to take that step back and have that really big picture look of including all the stakeholders to come in with the solutions. And there might be solutions that we have no idea are out there, but there's an entrepreneur right now that's coming up with those solutions.
So just in the time we have, I want to ask each of us, and I'll start us off, in giving, what can someone who's listened to this discussion actively do, leaving this meeting, leaving this this gathering. And I'm going to actually take something that a dear friend of mine had said just a few weeks ago in New York, where we talk a lot about reduce, reuse, recycle, I think, and she added this great point, is that what we first have to do is not just reduce, but we have to refuse. And we have to stop buying stuff. If you, the most important thing I think we can do is vote with our money, and the best vote is the vote to not purchase anything. It's to get more miles out of the car we have today. It's about letting everything move longer and further, and not constantly ask for new consumption to occur. So that would be my advice, but I'd love to hear from you guys. What would you want everyone here to change and to do starting now?
Yeah, source reduction, making that wise choice. And when you do make a choice, educate yourself. And realize that, to your point, durability is part of sustainability. So make your purchase a wise purchase for a longer period of time.
I would stop making excuses. Like sometimes creating less waste is a little bit less convenient, so figure out how to make it easier to remember your reusable coffee cup next time you go to Starbucks. Or if you are in the market of purchasing a new car, choose a plug-in hybrid. There's so many if you live in LA, there's so many charging stations. Even if you don't have one at home, you'll find a way. So like, just stop saying, oh, in 5 years when I get this, I'll be able to get there. Like, just do it. Now is the time.
Yeah, my opinion is from the public sector, stockholders need to hold companies that they invest in accountable. And they need to make sure that those companies implement environmental programs before they invest in them.
Lady first.
Oh, okay. Well, beyond the starting thing I'm going to say is get uncomfortable. Start to get uncomfortable, because whether it's going to be that you need to challenge the companies that you're purchasing from, that you're participating with, or that you work for. I haven't always worked for an environmental company, and it's not fun to have to question the authorities and the structures that you work within. But start by challenging all of those things, and then start just by one change. Like literally make one change. Everybody here, I'm going to plug it so hard. You all have a cell phone right now. If you hold it up and if it's wrapped in plastic, make that one change. Make the one change that you're not going to use a water bottle that's disposable. Just choose one thing tomorrow, and then the next day choose another one.
Sir.
I have 9 seconds. So start changing the world. I mean, I would like I think to the young kid, the generation, you have a dream, go for this, have a green dream, say, I want to change Los Angeles, I want to change Beverly Hills. A lot of things you can do just for pressing the adults. Because the adults sometimes are, it's your time. It's your time to make your dream.
Right
And
on.
this is the message for them.
Thank you. Can we give it a round of applause to the panel? Thank you, guys. Thank you.